6:31. So what I like to do is kind of a slow start and let the latecomers, so when they join, they haven't missed much. But my name's Bobby King. I'm the Minnesota State Director for Solar United Neighbors. And this is our Solar 101 for both the Twin Cities Area Solar Co-op and the Duluth and Arrowhead Solar Co-op. And figure out how to advance just a little bit of housekeeping. So if you got a question as we go along, you can put it in chat, or you should be able to unmute yourself and just go ahead and ask your question too. When you are in the chat, make sure the two line there is to everyone. Sometimes by default, or it can be moved to just a particular person or just to the moderator. But just to make sure everyone's able to use the chat, if folks don't mind putting in their where they're from, is great to see, and what your strongest interest in solar is. Well, let that roll for a second and see what we get there. I'll start. Not a fast typer. Anybody, people figuring it out? There we go. Bill Grant, interested in low income solar. Welcome, Bill. Everyone else able to get in there? I'm still trying to type. Duluth, trying to see if it makes sense. Emily, North Minneapolis, green energy. All right. Jude, living in Duluth, putting solar on the home eventually. Well, maybe we can make that eventually this year. And then my colleague, Trinity is on the call too. And Trinity, you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Of course. Hi, y'all. I'm Trinity. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I am located in Iowa, but I assist in Minnesota and a few other states at Solar United Neighbors. I'll be answering y'all's questions in the chat, but you're also welcome to unmute, and Bobby can answer along the way as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Trinity. All right, we'll jump right in now. Key to our solar co-ops that we do are working with partners that have good purchase in the community, help spread the word, and just share our enthusiasm and vision for solar and energy democracy. And they're listed here: Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light, Cook County Local Energy Project, City of Coon Rapids, One Roof Community Housing in Duluth, the Minnesota Renewable Energy Society, the City of Minneapolis, and also the City of Minnetonka. I forgot to get their logo up. And I think some of our partners are here with us, and they might say a few words about the organization. Chris, are you here with Cook County Local Energy Project? All right.
Yes, I am, Bobby. Hi.
Go ahead, Chris. Tell us all about CCLEP.
Yeah, no, my name's Chris O'Brien. I'm the board president for the Cook County Local Energy Project that's based in Grand Marais, which is where I live. Cook County, the CCLEP, it's a has been around since 2009 and has been the leading organization in Cook County that is supporting an accelerated transition to clean energy in the county since, as I said, since 2009. We sponsored a range of activities, encouraging folks, educating the public about energy efficiency, climate change, renewable energy. We facilitate folks who want to get more information or want to make or want to invest in solar or clean energy, and for that reason, we had a partnership with the co-op for several years of the past years, and we've seen a lot of solar go into Cook County. We also do workforce training, and we just recently completed a builders workshop in Cook County, and then sponsor some other events like we we get work with a number of other organizations in the area to sponsor an Earth Day fair, and now we're looking to actually do a bigger Earth Day month, or Earth Month in April. So keep your eyes open for that.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, every year CCLEP gets quite a few people in the solar co-op, and many of them go solar. And Brett Pence from MNIPL, I think you're with us.
I am. Hi, Bobby. Nice to be with you. Hi, all. Yes, my name is Brett Pence. I'm with Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light. I live and work in Duluth. I'm our Northern Minnesota staff person, and we are a nonprofit. We are 501c3 that works with faith communities to lift their voice into climate justice and bring solutions back to those communities and to communities they live in general. We think solar co-ops or solar group buys are an excellent idea to reduce costs for everyone. And we love Sun's model of public education within that process. And we also strive to work to make sure that low-income folks can have the opportunity to also go solar as well and work on policy with groups like Sun. So happy to be here.
Thanks, Brett. All right, moving on. So a little bit about Solar United Neighbors. We're a national nonprofit, and we're vendor neutral, meaning that we don't have a specific relationship with any solar installer. We encourage as many solar installers as possible to bid on the group's business, so we get competitive price. Kind of how we think about ourselves is we work to help people go solar, then join together and fight for their energy rights. So what we mean by that is that through working with people to get solar on their business or their farm or their home, we want to learn what's working great for distributed solar and what could be better. And we want to advocate policy based on that experience of our members or the folks that went solar with us, to advocate for policy that makes more solar possible. We've helped over 8,000 families go solar through our solar co-ops or solar group buys. Here in Minnesota, 248 people have gone solar through one of our solar co-ops. You can see kind of the benefits that flow from that. Jobs and CO2 offsets and significant energy savings. A little bit about how we got started, and I just want to share that because it's kind of in our DNA. In 2007, Anya Schoolman, who's in the picture there with the sunglasses on, her son Diego on our right, her left, saw an inconvenient truth with Al Gore, came back home and said, "Mom, we got to go solar. Why wouldn't we go solar?" And she said, "Yeah, let's do it." But as they talked to installers and the city and the utility about how to do it and what was possible and what was allowed, she was given lots of different answers, conflicting answers. And her kind of sensibility is to be an organizer, to bring people together. So in her Mount Pleasant neighborhood in Washington, D.C., they got together a group of, I think, over 100. And it was a couple of year period, but ultimately about 50 of them ended up going solar. And that story made the news. Other people started calling and said, "We'd like to do it." And she ran it out of her living room for a while. And over the years, it's turned into what we have now, a national organization that's working in 11 states, Puerto Rico and DC on doing group buys. And again, here's just a visual of that, how we think about that. Go solar, join together and fight for better policy to make more solar possible, and just keep the circle going. And then just wanted to say something about equity. That's core to how we think about things now, and we've developed it pretty intently into our program. And we'll talk tonight about opportunities for low-income folks to go solar. But as we create an energy system that's more distributed, more people can be energy producers, more people can benefit economically from the energy they produce. We want to do it in a way that is equitable, especially since our old energy system disproportionately impacts low-income people and people of color. We not only don't want to repeat that mistake, we want to see if we can create a system that addresses in some of those past injustices. And then here's kind of what we're going to do tonight from here on out. We're going to go through solar technology, the basics of solar technology, solar economics, how to think about the cost of solar and what your payback periods can be, and then how the solar co-ops work to save you money and make the whole process easier. Takes about an hour and 5 or 10 minutes from right now to get through all of this. And please ask questions as we go. I'll also pause at the end of each section and see if people have any questions. So solar technology, this is the broad overview. So just to be clear, we're talking about PV solar, solar that turns panels that turn solar rays into electricity. There's other types of solar, hot water and stuff that's all great, but tonight we're talking about taking the sun's rays and turning them into electricity. So here's the basic components of how a system would operate on your home or farm or small business, whatever you got. On the roof, or could be on a ground mount, there's a solar array that's taking the sun's rays and turning it into direct current. That goes to the inverter, which takes that direct current and turns it into alternating current, which is what you use in your home. That will flow to your electrical panel, and then electricity wants to go to the closest thing that wants to use it. So you got a light on, you got your refrigerator on, you got your heater, your microwave. That solar power you're producing is going to go in your home and you're going to use that power. And that's all going to happen before anything hits your utility meter. But on a really nice Minnesota summer, when it's 72 degrees, your windows are open, the wind's blowing, you don't have any lights on, you're going to be producing a lot more power than you're using in some cases. So that power that you don't use flows through your utility meter back onto the grid, and your neighbor will use it. The closest, your neighbor that has their light on, or they're running their air conditioner maybe, they're going to use that power. And we'll go into this later, but through a process called net metering, that power that you put back on the electrical grid, you're compensated for. Here's the parts of a solar panel. You see you got the frame, the glass, then the encapsulant that will bind the glass to the solar cells, then another encapsulant layer, then the back sheet, and then a junction box that's used to join the modules together to get the solar array. One important thing to know about panels now is they've gone down in price dramatically and the quality's gone up dramatically. And they have two types of warranties to understand. The first is a product warranty. So that's a warranty against defects. And those are typically anywhere from 12, and now they go even up to 25 years now. But you shouldn't see anything below 12. Then the other warranty is called a production warranty. And those look like this. They'll guarantee you that on your 25th year, your production on that 25th year will be a certain percentage of what it was on day one. So typically it's a 2% decrease in the first year and a half, followed by a percent or a fraction of a percent. Most panels, you're looking at mid 80s to mid 90s of what the production warranty will be. So in other words, it's a product that manufacturers feel good about guaranteeing for 25 years. They'll be working at a level somewhat comparable to day one. Then these are two terms to get straight right off the bat, and it'll save you some confusion. Kilowatts is a measure of power. So for those of us who are my age, about, you'll remember 50 watt, 60 watt, 70 watt bulbs. The bigger the wattage, the more powerful the bulb. And then kilowatt hours is a measure of usage of electricity or usage of power. So your electric bill is going to be in kilowatt hours. The size of your solar array is going to be in kilowatts. And the amount of kilowatt hours a panel produces will be a function of the power of the panels, the orientation of the array, and how much shade you get and stuff like that. And this picture's to scale, so you can see a person beside the panels. Then the other component to know about is racking. You know, how do they attach these panels and arrays to your roof or put them up on the ground? And you'll see here, there's a racking system on an asphalt roof. I think the most important thing to know about racking is it's a very well-developed product that's improving constantly. Nobody is getting up on your roof anymore and figuring out as they go. For every type of roof, there's a racking solution that's been well thought out. Here's an example of some of those. You can see the flashing at the top. The bottom left is a clamp on a metal seam roof. So metal seam roofs work great for solar. Those clamps don't need to penetrate the roof even. Here's some supports on a flatter roof. And then of course, the ground mount, you know, if you got the space, that's a possibility too. So the next part of the system is the inverter. And again, that's what takes the direct current that the solar panels are producing and turns it into alternating current. And there's two basic kinds. On the left, you'll see a string inverter. And that's an inverter where a string of solar panels or arrays flow into that one inverter. And then on the right, you'll see a microinverter. Microinverters, every panel would have a microinverter. And then there's kind of a combo of the two there. You'll see in the middle where you have a string inverter that's combined with the DC optimizer. A little more clarity on how these work. So here's a model of a string inverter, and you'll see all the panels are the arrays wired together, and it flows into the one inverter. Because of the way electricity works, if one panel is partially shaded, then all the other panels will produce at the level of that partially shaded panel. So a string inverter by itself only works well when you've got a situation where there's no shade and you've got full-on sun most of the time on the panel. A string inverter, typically the warranties for that are 12 years to 15. There's fewer points of failure for those. Then you'll see at the top here is a group of panels wired with at the top a micro inverters. So each panel has a micro inverter. The standard for micro inverters is 25-year warranty. And then sometimes the installer chooses to or suggests that you use a string inverter with DC optimizers, which addresses that problem of if one panel is partially shaded, it doesn't negatively impact the other panels. It's the inverter that will send either through a cell card or your Wi-Fi, if you have it, information to your computer and your phone on the status of your panels. It'll show you how they're working, how much power they're producing. It'll keep track of how much power they produced over time and really give you a lot of information about exactly what's going on with your system. The installer typically will also be getting that signal and monitoring it also, and can sometimes know about a problem before you do. And then how does it connect to your home? It just goes through your electrical panel. Most homes have room to accept solar without any upgrades to the panel. If you open your panel and you don't see any extra slots there, it looks kind of maxed out, you might need a panel upgrade. That's typically $3,000 to $4,000. And the solar tax credit and some other incentives also apply to that. So if you do need electrical upgrades, combining it with solar is often a very cost-effective way to do it. And then the roof. So of course, south facing is the best. With modern panels, east and west also works. You want, as little shading as possible, and you're going to need enough space to be producing enough power to make it worth it to do. We usually think 300 square feet's about the minimum that you need. The other thing you want to think about is the condition of your roof. To redo the roof, the panels have to come down, and installers do that, but there's a cost to taking them down and putting them back up. So we recommend that you have at least 10 years of life on your roof before you go solar. The good news about getting panels up there is they're very durable, and the roof that's under your panels is going to last longer than the rest of your roof. And then what is net metering? How does that work? So here's the diagram of your solar array on your home again. So when you're producing more power than you use, it flows through your utility meter. And the old school meters that had the little whirly disc, you would have seen them rotate backwards when that happens. So when you put power back on the grid, it goes to your neighbor who'll use it. Your utility provider charges your neighbor for the power that they're using, and you get compensated at roughly retail rate for the power you put back on the grid through this state law called net metering. So if your system is under 40 kilowatts, which for a home is a very large system, you are entitled to get net metering. We were the first state to adopt net metering in 1989, and it's an important part of making solar work for more folks. Yeah, here's just a kind of straightforward example of how net metering works. You use 300 kilowatt hours from the grid. You put 200 kilowatt hours back on the grid, power that you produce, but you didn't need to use in your home. Then you're charged for 100 kilowatt hours. If those numbers were reversed, then it would be, there'd be a credit you were owed. Every utility has a little bit of a different system of how they like to settle up and gives you different ways of settling up on your net metering. So what happens when the power goes out? First time I learned this, I was surprised. When the grid is down, your solar shuts off. So, and the reason is we don't want any power backflowing onto the grid, and the lines people are out there trying to get the power back on, and they're electrocuted and harmed or killed. So if you want power when if you want electricity when the power's out, you need batteries. Most folks don't get batteries, but a few do usually. You might want them if you have frequent utility outages, you got critical loads at home, like a pump or medical equipment or home office that you have to just keep going. Or you're just a person who's interested in emergency disaster preparedness. And the battery will not power your whole home. What you'll do is you'll work with your installer and you'll figure out the critical loads that you want your battery to power when the power's out, and you'll create a circuit that battery feeds. So you'd pick out like a refrigerator, microwave, cable modem, maybe a small air conditioner, anything that generates heat or cool is going to drain a lot of power from your battery. So you'll want to think through that carefully. Here's an example of a 13.5 kilowatt hour battery pack and what it could run for about a day. Here's for this person, in this example, their battery was going to cost about $12,000. So it is a substantial cost. And of course, when you're taking the power you're producing and put it into the battery instead of back onto the grid, you're not getting net metering for that. So in one sense, because we have net metering, you can think of the grid as the battery you're using, but all the installers that will bid on the co-op's business will offer batteries and have an offering there. And we do have a pretty elaborate battery storage guide and some expertise on staff if you want to pursue that and get in the weeds on it. So just a quick overview. Again, you got the solar array on your roof, producing the DC power that goes to your inverter, which will convert it into AC power. That inverter also will send a signal to your computer or your phone, showing you the health of your array and what you're producing. Power flows to your electrical panel. You use what you need, and you share the rest of that renewable local power with your neighbors, and then you're compensated for the power you put back onto the grid. Here's some common questions. We went through the warranties. Homeowners insurance is kind of a mixed bag. You're going to want to call your homeowners insurance and find out if they will increase your rates, and if so, by how much. If it's going to be a lot, you might want to look around. Maintenance, there's no moving parts. There's really, no ongoing maintenance, but there can be problems that need to be addressed. So you want to feel good about the installer you're using. They're going to be able to come out and help you fix anything if it comes up. So how long do systems last? Well, the panels are warranted for the 25 years production warranty, but this new round of panels we have, they haven't been around for 25 years yet. So we'll see how long they can go beyond that and still be effective. If you live in a HOA, we've passed a law that for many people will prevent their HOA from blocking them from going solar. And we can work with you on that if you're getting any trouble there. Historic districts, those could be tricky. It's not impossible, but challenging. Any other questions or thoughts or? All right, I think everyone's got their microphone off, or else I'd be waiting for the applause to die down. I'll keep going. Solar economics. So here's a chart just showing how the price of solar has dropped dramatically. So 73% since 2010. It's no longer a specialty product. There's a well-developed industry that's getting better, year over year on getting solar up affordably and reliably and more and more cheaply. In many cases, you can get a good return on your investment, and everyone qualifies for a 30% federal tax credit, which we'll go into a little bit more detail in just a minute. Go into it right now. So you can take the price of what you pay for your solar array, and that includes electrical upgrades you need to do your solar, and you can claim 30% of that is a credit against federal income tax owed. And you can roll that over from year to year until you use it up. You don't ever get cash back. If your credit's more than you owe, you just have some credit to use in future years. Then here's a chart looking at how to think about the payback period on solar. Let's just take that 8 kilowatt example. So an 8 kilowatt solar array at 320 a watt, that's just a kind of a back of the envelope number. 25,600 bucks. The tax credit takes 7,680, and that's assuming you'll be able to realize that value in 1 year. For some people, that might not be the case. So there's your net cost. The minute you turn that array on, it's generating electrical power for you that has a value. In this case, it's about $1,293 of savings a year. You look at over 10 years, that's going to be about 13,829. We're assuming an escalator of 2%, though Excel has routinely asked for quite a bit more than that. If you're Excel, then you look over a 25-year lifetime of the array at $20,893 return on investment. Now, when you get a proposal from your installer, often they will include on it, and if they don't, I'll help you figure it out, at what year your array hits the break-even mark. In Minnesota, we usually see that around between the 12th and 14th year is what we see for most homeowners. Can be better, can be a little worse, depending on your situation. Here's a chart showing similar numbers with using a loan. And I mean, the short and long of this, of course, is that if you use a loan, your net profit isn't going to be as much. Some of it's going to be eaten up by the interest taken by the lender, but it can still work out. You'll want to look at the numbers and make sure it works out for you. And talking about loans, that's really worth shopping around. Many solar installers will offer a loan, and I'd take a look at that, but I wouldn't stop there. Used to be a home equity line of credit was a good way to go. That's, I think, less and less the case. If interest rates gets better and people are getting back to refinancing their home, rolling it into that can work. But if you go to our website, solarunitedneighbors.org/financing, we've got all the loan products we know of dedicated to solar. And if you scroll down to the end, there'll be an icon for Minnesota, and you can click and see some Minnesota specific ones. Some to take a look at, I think, are the nonprofit Center for Energy and the Environment has some solar loans. They also partner with some cities. Minneapolis is one of them, where they have some special loan products where in those cities they partner with, the interest rates lower. Affinity Plus Credit Union and Highway Credit Union have the CU Green Solar Program. Members Cooperative Credit Union in Duluth also has a solar loan product that's pretty competitive. Here's just a little bit about Center for Energy and the Environment. Sometimes they join us on these webinars. So they administer programs in partnership with the Department of Commerce, Minnesota Housing, and here are the cities that they partner with. So they have some, you don't have to live in those cities to get their loan, but if you do live in those cities, they have some lower interest loans available. So I always think they're worth checking out. They get back to you quickly, and it's kind of a good benchmark to see what they'll offer you and see if you can beat it. Yeah, sorry, I should have checked this right before the webinar, but as of a couple months ago, this was accurate. They were at about 6% on no income limits, available statewide. All right, before I move on, any questions before we get into solar incentives? All right, we want to help you make sure you get all the incentives.
So I just took myself off mute. You're doing a good job, Bobby. It's a lot of information to take in, been taking notes. Save some questions for the end.
Okay,
You got a good flow going.
thank you. And this is recorded, and we'll email you a copy of the recording. And both Trinity and I are around to answer any questions afterwards too, if you want to call us. So this is worth knowing about. There's some grants for farmers and businesses. The Rural Energy for America program, grant program, can cover up to 50% of the cost. You've got to be a rural small business or a farmer to get that. Property assessed clean energy financing is also for businesses. It's a pretty good loan product. And then businesses can take accelerated depreciation on solar. So for small businesses and farmers, solar can achieve a really quick payback period if you're able to tap into some combination of this. And we have a guide on how to apply for the REAP grant. We also have further help on that. So if that applies to you and you want to dig into it, let me know afterwards. And here's the rebates that we know about. Dakota Electric has a one-time $500 rebate. So Minnesota Power customers, they have a program called Solar Sense. So I'm going to tell you about it, but be straightforward that we're not going to have an installer selected in time for people in the solar co-op to try to get this. In the past, we did, but in the last couple of years, nobody got the incentive. It's the pool is so small. It's effectively a lottery. We were killing ourselves to get the installer selected really quick, and then nobody was getting the incentive. If you're on this call and you really want to go for this incentive, I'm happy to put you in touch with some good installers and try to get you fast track the process if you want to go for it. But I wanted to let people know about it and let you know that it's out there. But in our experience, it hasn't panned out for people lately. You'll see that they have a pool of 87,000 for this year. It'll pay 56 cents a kilowatt hour for your estimated first year production. And you'll see the estimate there is that, okay, let's see on the screen. Yeah, for a 4 kilowatt system, it would be around $1,500. And it's essentially a lottery. The day it opens up, the money's gone. They do have a low income grant program. And you put in a grant and you wait for them to tell you if you get the money. We've helped many people apply for this and gotten it for them or with them. The income standard that Minnesota Power uses for whether or not you qualify is the same as energy assistance. And here's the guidelines for energy assistance. So in the past month, when you apply for energy assistance, your income in the past month needs to be these numbers based on this household size. So if you think that might be you and you want to try it, let me know via email or give me a call and we can help you apply for that. Okay, Excel solar rewards. So There's a pool of money in Minnesota called the Renewable Development Account. And that money is used to pay for this solar incentive. The money that goes into that account comes from a fee that Xcel Energy pays to store nuclear waste at their Prairie Island nuclear facility. So they had committed to Minnesotans that they wouldn't store nuclear waste there. It turns out nobody wanted to host a repository for all the nuclear waste in the country. They wanted to store some on site. There was a big movement actually to say, no, you can't do that. But the compromise was they would be able to store waste there, but they'd pay into this renewable development account that's used to transition our state to renewable energy. And those funds help pay for this incentive to go solar. So if you're in Xcel territory, you get an additional 3 cents a kilowatt hour for 10 years. You have to limit the size of your solar array to 120% of your yearly usage to get that. And your installer will be very familiar with that and can help you run those numbers. If you've got a really great roof and you can put up solar that will produce 200% of your usage, sometimes the benefits of net metering outweigh the benefits of getting that 3 cents a kilowatt hour. So when you talk to your installer, and I can help with this, what you're going to want to let them know is, I want the quickest return on my investment, or I want the cheapest system I can get up. I'm on a tight budget, or I want to produce as much solar power as I can, whether or not I get that 3 cents or not. So there's no right size. It really depends on what you're most interested in. Here's a little bit of how that solar rewards looks like on paper. So a 5 kilowatt system, you see you get the federal tax credit at 10,000 for 4,710. Lower your net cost to 10,990. Just remember that 4,710, that federal tax credit, you've got to front that money. Sometimes you'll see that amount deducted from your price, which is accurate. That's one way to think about it, but that money has to come out of your pocket before you get it back. So then you'll see on this size system, you get about $750 of savings a year. And solar rewards at 3 cents a kilowatt hour for this size system would be about $279 extra that you'll get paid at the end of the year for 10 years. So over the life of the system, you will get $2,790 from this incentive program. A separate incentive they have is for income qualified folks that want to go solar. And that will pay $275 a watt for your array, and it's paid as soon as your array is interconnected. So that's, depending on the price, 80 to 90% of the cost of the array. So it's a pretty substantial incentive. If you're on energy assistance, you qualify for that. If you have a Section 8 housing voucher, you qualify for that. If you're living a Habitat for Humanity home, if you're on WIC or SNAP, if you're a community land trust homeowner or a medical assistant recipient, if you're on any of those programs, then you qualify for that incentive. And I think if you fall in that category and you got a good roof, we can make sure to get you across the finish line on solar. There's another incentive that, as part of the group buy, for folks that live in Minneapolis, we can plug you into. So Minneapolis has a program called Minneapolis Green Cost Share. And for anyone that lives in Minneapolis, they give you 20 cents a kilowatt hour for your estimated first year of production. So we'll go through some numbers later. If you live in a Minneapolis green zone, you get 35 cents a kilowatt hour for your estimated first year of production. if you live, it basically, if you qualify for the Xcel Energy income qualified, if you tick any of those boxes, you get 40 cents a kilowatt hour. This is the map of Minneapolis's green zones, in case you want to know if you live one. If you Google Minneapolis green zones, the city has a tool to help you know if you live in one. It's areas of the city that Minneapolis has determined are disproportionately low income and people of color and suffer the impacts of pollution and some other issues. So they've created programs to benefit folks that live in these communities. Here's just one last thing on the green cost share. 1 of every 5 applicants for it has to be qualify for the green zone payment or the low income payment. So we have to keep a ratio of 5 to 1 on that. We've managed to do it every year. We apply for the money on behalf of the people in the group buy. Sun has to front the money and then we get reimbursed by the city. So we've always been able to get it to everyone from Minneapolis that's in the group buy, though as you go through the process, we'll just need to communicate and see where we're at with things. So here's some numbers for a 5 kilowatt system. At $314 a watt, it'd be like 15,700. Tax credit 4,710. The green cost share payment for a system about this size for someone that doesn't live in the green zone and doesn't qualify for the low income would be about $1,250. So here's what the numbers look like if you do qualify for the income qualified solar rewards. A $15,700 system from the Minneapolis Green Cost Share. You get $2,500 from the solar rewards, low income solar. You get $13,750. So if you lived in Minneapolis, you would pay nothing. If you lived outside of Minneapolis and you didn't get that green cost share, your cost for this solar array would be $1,950. So there's some pretty powerful incentives for lower income homeowners to make solar work for them. Any questions there on these incentives before we move on to the solar co-op? All right. If there's some in chat, I can't see the chat, so I'm gonna keep going.
Okay, I'll ask a quick one. So
Yeah.
this information is there's a lot of info here, and I thank you for that. But it would all be discoverable on the Sun website, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I will say this. I love our website. We have a lot of content, and discoverable is sometimes the operative word. It's there. But I would say, and I'll show you this a little bit later, the best point for anyone here to start would be on the web page for the solar co-op. And I'll share those web pages in a little bit. If you start there, you'll probably be able to find most of this stuff. We don't have actually all these local incentives mapped out like this, though there will be a recording of this on the website and emailed to you. You can fast forward to. If you want to get a copy of this slide deck, I could figure out a way to email that to you too. That could be a little tricky because of size, but we can figure it out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So how the solar co-op works. So we say solar co-op, they're started in Washington, D.C., where the term co-op doesn't have as much usage there as it does here, but it's a group of people working together to get a lower cost on solar. There's no legal co-op created. It's the folks that decide to join. It's free to join. And people do it to get a good value on installation. support throughout the process, connect with other solar enthusiasts. And some folks that go solar want to just hang on with us and be part of the solar movement and keep advocating for solar. So all that's possible and a part of what we're doing. Here's the theory of the solar co-op, why it works. So you'll see this is a chart that shows the price of solar over the years being over $7 a watt in 2010, and by 2020 below 4. And the system components, the light yellow, you'll see how that part of the cost has gone dramatically down as the quality has gone up. The green is the labor costs have gone down and leveled off as just the know-how and the ease of the working with the equipment's gotten better. But what has not gone down is the soft costs of procuring customers. So that's why if you ever have Googled, I want solar, and given your email or phone number to any website, you are bombarded by all kinds of offers. And these are just mostly lead generators that try to get your info to sell it to an installer, because there's a lot of cost associated with finding a customer and getting them through to the finish line. So what we're telling installers is we have 150 folks that have been educated about solar. When you join the solar co-op, Trinity will do a satellite review of your property, and they will make sure that your roof is a possibility for solar. So we got an educated group of people whose homes most likely work. You're a valuable pool of people. They want to get competitive to get your business. So here's kind of the steps. Learn about the co-op, sign up online. I'll share the webpage a little bit later. It's free to join. There's never any obligation to go solar. There's never any cost to be a member of the co-op. We really rely on folks to help spread the word. That's how most folks learn about the opportunity and get into it. Then we will put out a request for proposals to any solar installer that's interested. And we'll make some phone calls and make sure installers see it and we get a good group of bids. We'll get the bids back. Trinity and I will make sure information's accurate, check licenses, check Better Business Bureaus, stuff like that. And then a group of co-op members who volunteered to be on our selection committee will review the bids with us, Trinity and I, and the committee members will decide which installer gets the business. Then that installer will give everybody in the solar co-op a bid for solar on their property at the co-op price. And Trinity and I are around to help you look through your contract. I'll meet with the installers weekly, work out any issues anyone might be having as an advocate for members of the solar co-op. You will take a look at that proposal and decide if you want to sign a contract with the installer. That contract will be between you and the installer. And that's the point at which you decide to make it a commitment or not. And it's totally up to you. And your solar goes up. And I started working at Solar United Neighbors about 4 years ago, just as COVID started. So I never had the habit of having the party, but we're going to have a party this year. And there's 5 years of people that have gone solar pent up, so it should be a good one. And you'll be invited to the party whether you go solar or not. Here's some dates on when we'll have our installers. So the Duluth and Arrowhead, their request for proposals will go out end of February, 2/26. We'll get the bids back on March 11th. And on 3/25, March 25th, the selection committee will meet, review them, and we'll have our installer. Twin Cities, we're a little further along. The request for proposals is out. We're getting the bids due back February 20th. March 7th, the selection committee is going to meet and select an installer. So here's the webpage for the Twin Cities, solarunitedneighbors.org/Twin Cities. We've got 38 folks so far. I just forgot this gal's name, but she went solar with us last year, right in the Longfellow neighborhood. And this really is the first info session we've done since the Duluth and Arrowhead Solar Co-op launched. So we got 4 right now, but we get over 100 every year. We're not worried about that. And it's solarunitedneighbors.org/Duluth. So if you look at the page there, you'll see on below the picture of the family that went solar, it says co-op, then updates, events, installers. Those are tabs. Sometimes they're not very clear, but if you click on them, you'll see upcoming webinars under updates. I'm sorry, under events. If you would click on that, you'd see upcoming webinars. On updates, we'll announce the installer once that's figured out, and other things relative to the co-op, like your last day to sign up or sign a contract. And once an installer is selected, if you click under the installer tab, it would be there, but you'll also get an email too. After you do join the solar co-op, you'll also get a series of emails once a week that just gives you a lot of this information in more bite-size email by email info. So that's where we're at. I think we're done, and I'm happy to hang around and take any questions folks have, or any other thoughts folks have.
Hey, Bobby, this is Brett. Hi.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a good question in the chat, and I don't know the answer. Have any Minnesota condo owners gone solar? I'm assuming yes, but I wonder if you've heard about that.
Yes, we've never been able to get one over the line as part of a solar co-op so far. Usually what happens is, you just got to work it through the co-op, the condo board, and they end up going solar, but not within the framework of the solar co-op because the process takes a little longer. But there's some really good options for condo owners. There's some different models. They can own it outright, but there's also something called a power purchase agreement, where a third party owns the solar, sells you the electricity at a discounted rate. Some investors take the tax credit. That's how it all works. And after a number of years, the solar gets passed on to the condo. So I'm happy to talk more with anybody about that, but there are good options for condos. Owning it outright is one of them, and the solar co-op can help you with that, but there's other options too.
Just wanted to say thank you so much. This was super informative.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like, well, about 3 years ago, I got a new roof, and I was like, I wish there was a getting a new roof co-op. This is stuff you really only do like once or twice in your lifetime, and like you make so many mistakes doing it the first time. You're like, come on, couldn't we get some people together with somebody who knows what they're doing and everybody benefits? So yeah, thanks for that.
Mhm.
Is it more expensive to add batteries like a year later if you decide I should have had batteries?
Yeah, that's a tough one. And here's the reason is we're kind of in the, VHS Betamax war over batteries. And a lot of the different batteries setups are proprietary. So if you do want to make your system battery ready, you can do that for a little bit of cost. And you kind of have to figure out what battery system you think you want to go for. The battery stuff is changing really quickly too. There's new stuff coming online, maybe as much as monthly. And but yeah, you can create a system that might be easier to add batteries later. You just have to work with your installer on that. Yeah, sorry, the answer is not a little more clear. The one thing that we may be headed towards though is any electric vehicle has a battery in it way more powerful than any battery for you'd put in your garage. So hopefully relatively soon our vehicles will also be the battery we're using in our home, but we're not there yet.
Bobby, there's a question in the chat that is asking how resistant to hail and wind damage the panels are.
Yeah, they're tough. You know, I've I haven't heard I haven't heard anyone yet say my panels were destroyed by hail. I've heard people say my roof was, and then the solar panels were fine. So I guess I wouldn't go so far as to say they're impervious to anything, but they're pretty darn strong and stronger than shingles when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah. This is Brett. I'll just say that that's true. And also remember your homeowner's insurance is going to cover the panels too. So if that were in the unlikely event that were to happen, you know, you would be covered under that. So.
All right. Well, if any of this sounds good, sign up, spread the word, and you've got Minnesota team, get you Trinity and I, and my phone number's on the website, and I'm happy to talk solar. If you have any questions, reach out.